Dylann Roof, the Charleston church shooter who killed 9 parishioners at a church after being with them for an hour as they prayed together, has decided to represent himself and fire his lawyers in the sentencing portion of his trial. So he's already been convicted for murdering those individuals, but now it is up to the jury to decide whether or not he will get life in prison without the possibility of parole, or whether he will be sentenced to death. Now, interestingly enough, he has decided again to represent himself, and he has testified, and of course his testimony has been terrible. So let me tell you what he had to say. Roof used a brief opening statement only to tell jurors that he had fired his lawyers because he did not want them to present evidence about his mental health. He complained that the lawyers, outside of the view of the jury, quote, forced me to go through 2 competency hearings, which he said would eventually become part of the public record. Now, understand that he does not believe he has any, mental disabilities or mental issues. He thinks that he's fully competent, and he made this decision, and he does not regret it. In fact, that has been a theme that was repeated through this trial. It was something that was found written in a journal that he kept in prison, and I'll give you some excerpts of that as well. But he also continued to say, so in that respect, my self-representation accomplishes nothing, so you can say, what's the point? And the point is that I'm not going to lie to you, either by myself or through anyone else. So he says there's nothing wrong with me psychologically. So he doesn't want that to be used as a defense. More importantly, he doesn't want people to think that he's crazy. He wants people to know that he did this with the intention of killing black people. And he's
in a larger sense, starting some sort of race war.
Yeah, and he's
encouraging other people on both sides to begin to fight.
That's exactly right.
So theoretically, if he comes off as just crazy, then that might not inspire the particular type of race war that he wants.
Exactly. So prosecutors also found a journal that he was keeping in prison, and they used parts of it for evidence. And so I want to give you some of that information as well. He said that he sometimes lamented the loss of some of the things he enjoyed doing while free, but remarked, then I remember how I felt when I did these things, when I committed these murders, and how I knew I had to do something. And then I realized it was worth it. He killed 9 innocent individuals as they were praying in a church. People witnessed the loss of their loved ones and their family members. There was a woman who witnessed her son being gunned down and dying in front of her. There was a woman who witnessed her husband. There was a man who witnessed his wife getting killed in this tragic event. And he thinks that he's a hero. And it's amazing. Look, I'm against the death penalty. And it's hard. It's really hard to hold on to that belief when you read the details about people like this and how they lack any and all remorse. And they think that they're heroes for killing innocent people. But interestingly enough, there are actually victims here who also disagree with the death penalty, and they would rather see him in prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah, for me, it's not even a question. It doesn't change my view on that whatsoever. The part that was really sick to me was that because he's representing himself, he gets to question witnesses, including a woman who was present for the shooting and survived. Her husband was killed. She and I believe her daughter survived. And so the guy who did the shooting, who killed her husband, questions her during the trial. I understand that that's the way our system apparently works if you choose to defend yourself, but when he's freely admitting that he did it and he doesn't regret it now, that just seems sick.
It does. Now, again, luckily he didn't want to ask any questions, so that didn't happen during the case. He just gave this short 2.5-minute testimony, and that was it. But you're right. I mean, look, this is how our justice system works, right? And so you want to ensure that everyone, regardless of how obvious it is that the individual is guilty, you want to ensure that everyone has a fair trial.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like he's been treated a lot more fairly than other people that we've done, stories on. But I wouldn't change that. I want that kind of fairness to ensure that we come to real justice.
I do think, though, and look, I'm not a psychiatrist, but there's something wrong with him. I mean, to be able to just walk in stone-faced, sit down, kill 9 people, very temporarily regretted a little bit during one interview, and then, no, the race war must continue, so I don't care anymore. No, there's something wrong with you. I mean, that can be the product of some terrible things happening in your life, perhaps, or the sort of programming that goes on during some military training in some countries. But a normal person who just grows up in America doesn't have that if there is not something wrong with them. So whatever ends up with him in jail for the rest of his life, I don't care if he's deemed insane or not.
Right.
But I think objectively looking, nobody thinks that he's totally fine in there, like mentally.
Look, I want to leave you with one final statement that he made in that journal that prosecutors got a hold of. He said, "I would like to make it crystal clear. I do not regret what I did. I am not sorry. I have not shed a tear for the innocent people I killed."
He called them innocent people.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Get the full 2-hour show ad-free. Become a member, tytnetwork.com/join.